you found time to watch much, or have you just been...
Yeah, I've seen a few wee bits and pieces, continuing with my Mission Impossible marathon.
Yeah.
I've watched Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation, because I'd watched the first 3 last week, and I am currently about halfway through Fallout. But I want to finish Fallout, and as soon as I saw that, as soon as it loading the arms, I'm about halfway through that, and the last one has just dropped on Netflix.
Oh, nice, has it?
This week, yes, yeah. What's it called? It's not Final Reckoning. Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning Part 1, even though there's not a Part 2 of Dead Reckoning.
I know that. I always thought this would just be Dead Reckoning Part 2, but obviously it's the Final Reckoning. I must admit, I've been watching the press tour, just seeing how it all gets on, and like I watched a wee clip of, was it Tom Cruise, was it the BFI or something? He was standing on the roof as well, just as you do. But he seems like, it's interesting because he's obviously like, what, 63, 64 maybe? And he's talking about, I want to do like a musical and a drama and this type of movie and blah, blah. And he obviously feels like he's got loads left in the tank to give, despite the fact obviously this big franchise is coming to an end. Yeah,
well, he is still a very active 63-year-old, obviously. He's taken care of himself for years and years. So it should be kind of expected that he'll be able to do that. And he's just totally geared towards making films. It has been for such a long time now. It's just one after the other. It's just, it goes from one production to another. And while he's working on one, actually shooting it, pre-production's happening on his next one. So it's just like this constant train. It's like the same idea as like Ridley Scott to a certain extent. He's always got something in the can. Or I was listening to an interview with Francois Ozon, French director, and he was like that. He actually makes a film. He averages a film like every 18 months. Because he's he's just constantly working. There's always just something else that he's like doing the pre-production on while he's promoting his last film. And his films are not like massive big blockbusters and stuff. They're like small scale dramas, so he can get the funding for it and he can get the people in to actually do it. So it's like short shoots and everything, and therefore it's like short editing times and all that as well. So he's got this system going, and it's the same idea. It's slightly bigger scale, obviously, with Tom Cruise, but yeah, it's good. So I'm there you go.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. I just think that like it's interesting because then you get someone like Lynn Ramsey, for example, who maybe does like a film every like 5-10 years or something, whereas these people are fully on this sort of, I don't want to say conveyor belt in a derogatory sense, but I just mean like they are constantly, and that's not to say that Tom Cruise isn't giving everything to the stuff that he does. He obviously is. He's putting himself at great risk in these films as well.
Yeah.
But I just find it fascinating how some people work versus other sort of artists, because obviously we've been looking at Cannes and things like that, and that Julia Ducournau, the Raw, she's got a new film there as well, and you just think that's probably been one every 2 years maybe for her. And it's just interesting looking at different people's sort of outputs and seeing like some of them are, as I say, as you say, like they're in pre-production for one thing while they're wrapping something else and on the press trail for a further thing, whereas other people are really sort of spacing out their work. So it's just kind of interesting to notice the patterns. Tom Cruise gives me the impression that if he sits down for more than 5 minutes, he'll combust, because he just obviously is full of ideas and energy, and obviously wants to be constantly sort of like on the go. Yeah,
he enjoys what he does, and he's obviously got the backing in order to do that. That's the problem with the likes of I think Lynn Ramsey would like to be far more prominent than she actually is in terms of output, but I think it's the problem of actually getting funding for female directors is
you're probably right there actually,
and for the type of projects that she's trying to do, it's not mainstream dramas, and it's not these sort of micro-budget films, it's somewhere in between. So we've obviously talked about the sort of mid-budget film before, but a mid-budget film helmed by a female director puts an awful lot of people off funding it, which is a real shame, and so they don't get the work that they really should be. It's not very good at all.
No, completely agree.
So in addition to obviously the films we're going to be talking about today, I saw Final Destination Bloodlines.
How is it?
Really good, actually. It's really good fun. Really, really inventive kills in it. Lots of gore. In a way, you can see where the monkey, I think I mentioned it, but you can see where the monkey took a certain amount of inspiration for kills, the way that it's set up. It's all things all clicking into place in order for somebody to someday. And there's a really good opening scene there which kind of explains the whole bloodlines part of it, where like hundreds of people were supposed to die and they all lived and they all had families. So death has been going around basically on various bloodlines, killing everybody, and it got to the people who are involved in the film, and one of them's figured it out. So it's really,
it does look
very
like
enjoyable. Fun. Yeah. These films are not ones that you take seriously. You just sit back and enjoy some of the stupidness of it, and just try not to think too much about maybe any plot holes or anything, because that's it's not really the point of it. But yeah, it's definitely back on form. It was a good film, and the fact that the initial scenes in it were set 40 years ago, so they were able to subtly link in the other films without actually really mentioning them at all. There was just like maybe wee bits of like newspaper reports of things happening and all that kind of stuff, and there was like wee tiny callbacks to some of the other films, and obviously Tony Todd was in it, and he's been in most of the films, and this was his final screen appearance before he died as well. So
because he passed away. Was it last year?
It was last year, yes. So it doesn't regard itself as like being a legacy sequel, prequel, sidequel. I think was the other one, wasn't it?
Oh right,
yeah. So it doesn't rely on any knowledge of anything else. But if you've seen other films, which you've probably seen at least one or two of them, if you're going to see this, then you get wee moments in it. You go, that's
right. So it's not like you have to do all of your homework type of thing. Although I think they are all back on Prime. The films aren't? Is it Prime they're on?
I think they are. Yeah. So that was really good. Really enjoyed that. It was fun. I also saw The Amateur, which is the Rami Malek spy thriller, which I don't know how it kind of passed me by, but I knew nothing about it. But it's still on at the cinemas at the moment. Just there seems to be one screening a day, but it was one that fitted in with my schedule, and it's an excellent wee spy drama. It's like a sort of fish out of water drama. He's a CIA analyst. In fact, it's very sort of Jack Ryanish in that sort of respect. He's a CIA analyst, and his wife gets killed, and there's sort of bigger political machinations around the whole thing, like what it actually means and who was involved. And he figures out who was involved, and then the CIA refused to go after them, so he goes on his own, and it was pretty decent. There's some really, really weird casting choices in it, because John Bernthal is in it, but he's in it for all of about 6 minutes.
That tends to be his cinema career, though. Do you not see when you think of like Widows and stuff like that? Because he was like heavily featured on the poster and in the trailers, and he had like one scene in the film. I feel like that's very much his thing.
This looks as if they're trying to maybe franchise this, but they didn't. They didn't really do it in a way that was obvious. It leaves the door open for further films. This is based. The film is based on a book from, I think it's 1980. I think it is, but there wasn't any follow-up novels with the same characters, so it kind of left it open. So it just depends on how it's doing, and that would kind of fit in with some of the characters that were in this, who are reasonably well known, but they had reasonably small roles in it. It wasn't expanded in the way that you kind of thought it would be. So you kind of think, are they going to come back? Are they going to be more involved and all this sort of stuff? But yes, it was actually a pretty decent film. I thought it was interesting, to say the least, and it's very much worth your time. In fact, I was thinking that once it becomes available on sort of streaming services, we might do a wee double bill of that and Black Bag, the Steven Soderbergh spy one, because they would work quite nicely together, sort of contrast and compare. They're two very different sort of spy films, but I think they would make a nice wee pairing for us. But obviously we just need to wait until the Amateur comes out. But it won't be that long, to be honest. Yeah, it'll be probably only about 5 or 6 weeks, I think, before it's out there somewhere, either to buy or
isn't it?
Yeah. Apart from that, I watched a film, I think it was from 2017, 2018, called The Bachelors. Don't know if you've seen that at all. It's a film starring J.K. Simmons and Julie Delpy. And J.K. Simmons is a maths teacher who he's lost his wife the previous year to cancer, and he's basically slowly breaking down. And the opening scene of it is him going into his teenage son's bedroom, just sitting down on the bed and saying, "I can't live here anymore." So they move away. Basically, they go cross country to another school. They've got an old friend there who runs a school, and he's able to go into school. And it's them trying to sort of both get over the grief of losing wife and mother while trying to get on with their life and meeting other people and everything like that. And it's really good. It's about 100 minutes long. It's not like, it doesn't drag on at all. And it's really, really, it's like a solid performance from Simmons. He is this depressed guy that just doesn't know what to do. But it's not the type of character where he refuses help or anything. He's quite open to getting like professional help to try and get him through, and he listens to people and all that. It's not the usual sort of, the struggle within himself, and he wants to do it all on his own and all that. But yeah, it's a pretty good wee drama, and Julie Delpy's really good in it as a French teacher and everything, who kind of befriends him at first. Well, she uses him as an excuse because the PE teacher is hitting on her and wants to take her out, and she's like that. She goes over to him and says, "Look, I know I don't really know you, but can you give me an excuse for not talking to this guy? I just want to get away from him for a couple of minutes." And then that just sort of leads on to other things. She asks him to go to a couple of things and all that. But yeah, it's excellent. That's on Prime at the moment.
All right, okay.
And it dots up on various streaming services. Seen a few places, but I think I might have seen that at the Glasgow Film Festival. I think it was one of those ones.
Right, okay, yeah.
Came on there, didn't really get a cinema distribution, and then just eventually ended up, online everywhere. So yeah, it's definitely worth a wee look if you've got a bit of time. So solid sort of 6, 7 out of 10 kind of idea. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, anything above a 5 and I'll watch.
So apart from that, I've just been watching all the usual TV stuff that I've still been doing, but I've mentioned all those before because it's obviously an ongoing series. And just still working my way through the Golden Girls.
I love the Golden Girls.
I'm on series 6 of it now, so that's there's 7 series or seasons, I should say, of about 24, 25 episodes. So there's still a fair amount there, but at 20 minutes a time, you tend to work your way through these without too much bother. But yeah. What about yourself? Have you managed to stay out of this?
Oh God, yeah. So I watched The Father of the Bride, the 1991 version. Because I just took a notion for, I absolutely love Martin Short in that, where he's like Frank Bonks talking about like the swans and all this sort of thing. And it was just lovely to watch. I really loved that film. It feels very nostalgic for me. So I remember watching it when I was a wee girl, and I just absolutely love it. So that was good. That was a nice one to watch. Just like obviously light viewing, Steve Martin, Diane Keaton, all that sort of thing. I rewatched Midsummer because I've got my Final Girl Glasgow meet up today, and that's the film that we're discussing. So I feel like even though I've seen that a few times, watching it again last night, I just had a complete like sort of reappreciation of how good that film is, like how good the setup is, how good the cinematography is, how good the performances are. So I really enjoyed rewatching that actually, and it's one of those films that I think is quite disorientating because of like the fact that it's set in almost constant daylight as well, and as I say, the cinematography is like quite like obviously it tips you upside down quite a few times, where you've got lovely like overhead shots that sort of spiral. So I really enjoyed rewatching that. Actually, I haven't seen that in a couple of years. On a lighter note, I watched, there's a new 3-part Fred and Rose documentary on Netflix. The episodes are about an hour long a piece. They're split into, the first one's Fred, the second one's Rose, and the third one's the trial. And I don't know why, but I'd never heard him speak. And he's got a really thick Gloucester accent. And I don't know why I was so surprised by that, because obviously that's like where they're from. But it was quite interesting because there was like footage or like audio when Rose West had been put in a safe house. And obviously the police record everything that goes on in the safe house. And you kind of got a sort of different side of her when you were hearing what she was sort of ranting and raving about while she was kept there. So it was actually quite interesting. Obviously everyone knows the story. It went into a wee bit more detail and obviously had talking heads from like local news journalists that were, I mean, there was a girl who she just started in the local paper and they put it on the crime desk because they basically had nothing else for her. And she was like, oh, great, you know, what happens in Gloucester? Absolutely nothing. Then the next day, there's bodies under the patio sort of thing. So her career sort of propelled through this story. And obviously they were talking to like forensic psychologists as well. And that was really fascinating as well, because they were sort of looking back on the police tapes and giving you these sort of clues about like, well, you know, he's saying this, or he's tripped himself up by doing that, or, you know, and it was really interesting. I do like my true crime, obviously. And then the other night, because Chris and I were really talking about whether we watched that Havoc or not, the Tom Hardy thing. And I was like, I just want to watch something that is like The Raid. So Chris recommended Ip Man from 2008 with Donnie Yen. And I obviously didn't know anything about it. So it's set like late 1930s. China and Japan have obviously invaded. And he is Master Ip, who's like this extreme like martial artist who all the town sort of revere. And there's competitions, like you can win a bag of rice if you manage to defeat, like you could take on like 3 Japanese soldiers at karate, and obviously he is the best, so he does it. And the fight choreography, and it was absolutely stunning, like so good. And also, like, hilariously, because I thought Donnie Yen was blind, because the only 2 films I had seen him in up until that point was the Star Wars films and John Wick, and he's obviously playing blind characters in both of them. So I was like, oh, I didn't realise he could see. But it was really good. And actually, that was just, I think you could rent it on Sky Store, which was like £3 or something. And it was well worth it, because I really enjoyed all of the fight choreography. And there is a wee bit of sort of historical kind of story going on there as well. I did really enjoy that. And whilst I was out getting my sunburn, I read 2 Yrsa Sigurdardóttir books. They're just like wee Icelandic detective stories. Like, she's a lawyer and she gets dragged into like various cases and stuff like that. So they were quite good. You can get through them quite quickly. And then I also read There Are Rivers in the Sky by Elif Shafak, because I was in Waterstones and Byers Road, which will surprise nobody, and that was their book of the month. I've never read any of her work, but I would absolutely go out and get more of her books. It was sort of 3 stories, one in Victorian London, one in a set as a Yazidi girl in 2014, and one sort of set in contemporary London. And it's like how these stories are all linked by tablets which tell the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh. So it's set across 3 rivers essentially, and I absolutely loved it. Like, it was genuinely one of the best books I have read so far this year. So it's made me want to go out and get more of her books, because there's just, her way with language is absolutely incredible. It feels so poetic, and it feels like really epic in itself. Yeah. Obviously, she's talking about like historical like artifacts and stuff like that, and just her level of description was incredible. So it was worth the 3rd degree burns that I've managed to sustain.
Nice. Excellent. Yes. Yeah. I should say I just purchased a book by a Canadian author called James Fell. He's a former newsman. He worked in sort of like, he did stuff to do with health and fitness and everything. He wrote columns and everything for newspapers, but he's now turned to writing books. He's written this book called This Day in History. So it's basically a one, things that happen on specific days, and he writes it from the point of view of somebody who swears quite a lot. So and it's like there's like a lot of very inventive swearing goes on here, and a lot of people can relate to that because it's very easy to read. He's written 2 volumes of it now. I think he did it as a column initially, and it was all over Facebook and things like that. He had lots. He's still quite a presence in Facebook, but not so much on X or anything. But he is now, because he's Canadian, he's very much defending Canada against the USA, and what do they call it? The danger yam and things like that. So, he's got some very inventive terms for Donald Trump and Republicans, and he just kind of eviscerates them whenever they comment on his posts.
That sounds and all that, because tremendous.
It's one of these ones that he's very well read, and he knows what he's talking about, and he reads a lot of other people. So people are saying, well, I trust this historian because they actually, they seem to tell the truth more than you do. You just talk nonsense. And he says, I've got 28 followers. that person is one of my 28 followers, and I read her every day. She's really good and all that. So he just puts these people down, puts them in their place, and all that. It's quite funny to actually read as well. So
that sounds absolutely tremendous. I would also like to give a shout out to my lovely husband, who last week when we were watching The Elephant Man, it says on one of the title cards that the film is not based on the Broadway play; it's based on books that David Lynch had researched. And I was like, oh, I wonder what those books are. And my lovely husband bought them for me this week. So that's going to be my next bit of reading, is a lot of John Merrick factoids. I hope everyone's ready to get bored to death with this.
Nice. Oh, that's excellent. Still doing nice things for you. That's really good.
It is. And also, he's taking me to a classic Italian car show next week for the bank holiday weekend. So I'm actually being allowed to look at car things. How exciting is that?
Wow. As long as you don't see anything silly, I think you'll fit right in, obviously.
Yeah, like where does the key go?
Yeah. Does that one go vroom, vroom, vroom?
How many horsepowers is this?
Yes. Oh, it's lovely. Does it come in blue? You go, yeah.
In fairness, when you watch like cop shows or like true crime and all that, and they're like, oh, it was a red Fiat Panda that was like, registration was this, and this. I'm like, God, all I could tell you was it was like a red car. I would never be able to go, it was this make and model, this was the Reggie, like, because I just don't pay that much attention to life around me. Maybe I should.
Yeah, it seems to, all these things seem to happen in American dramas that I just don't understand, and I don't know if it's actually real, because you say, yeah, it was a 73 Chevy, whatever that is, and it was traveling northeast, and you're going, how the fuck do you know it was traveling northeast? And it was, it was the north end of the city. It was at, or and they describe directions like that. Go to the southeast corner of the building. Who the fuck is that?
I know. See, if someone said to me, sat in my seat right now, point to north, I would be like, that way.
Well, for me, it's kind of over there, but I genuinely thought when I was younger that Americans carried compasses about with them so they knew what the direction was, and I don't think that's true at all. I think it was just something that they said.
That is absolutely stunning. I mean, some people probably do, but I wouldn't. I mean, I just have no sense of direction, no peripheral vision. Like, it's even, they say, even like if you're asking for directions and somebody's like, oh, it's 600 yards that way, I don't know what a yard is. So
yeah, exactly. It's down there-ish.
Yeah. Which is why, if you've ever bumped into me in Glasgow city centre and asked for directions, I have told several people that I'm not from Glasgow, just because I don't know how to give directions.
What, a media star like yourself, and you don't know how to, you're avoiding talking to people?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I can as you've said, give me a wee mic and I'll go and talk to strangers, no problem. But somebody asked me how to get to Bath Street, and I'll be like, oh, I've no idea. I know where it is, I just couldn't tell you how to get there.
I'm surprised that they haven't asked you to take a wee box out with you so that you can stand on it, so that you're the same height as normal sized people when you're interviewing them.
I don't know if you noticed in that clip, but I do have really massive platform trainers on.
All right, I didn't notice at all. No.
Because I'm still that much shorter than everybody
else.
Yep.
It's a joke, it'll never grow old.
Yeah, I don't own a pair of like flat shoes. Everything's got at least a wee bit of chunk on it to try and bring me up to. I mean, I still haven't actually made eye contact with you or Simi, and I've known you for like over a decade.
Nice. Oh, that's brilliant. the live action Lilo and Stitch is playing tomorrow, and also the Phoenician scheme, I should say.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Live action Lilo and Stitch, nah.
Yeah.
So, I didn't even like the cartoon.
Yeah, same. I know there was a TV series as well, wasn't there? A Lilo and Stitch one after the
Disney really need to get their finger out. Like, and this is what I don't get. See, when like really good, it's not original content, obviously, Andor is part of the Star Wars universe, but stuff like that, it's doing really well. And I'm like, invest in more stuff like this. Nobody gives a fuck about live action Lilo and Stitch. Snow White obviously tanked, like, for various reasons, but none of the live action stuff has done well. Can you just leave it the fuck alone, because it's not working?
Yes, for every Lion King there is a Snow White. So, in terms of box office,
did the Lion King do that well? Really?
It did well, and Mufasa was almost like a sleeper hit. It did okay business, but it was about for ages and ages. It was like 8-9 weeks. It was in the UK box office charts. So
the really Mufasa film looked shit.
Yeah, and I've seen it, and it's all right. I still can't get my head around talking lions, but like realistic. Yeah, fair enough. It's a cartoon lion and it's talking. That's different. But when you're actually seeing real ones and they're talking, it's a little more weird because it does look so realistic. Yeah,
it's so weird. It is kind of strange. I don't understand why they're pushing these when I don't understand like who the audience is. I guess if I had a child and I wanted to show them Snow White or Lilo and Stitch or whatever it is, I would just show them the original animated version. Like, I definitely wouldn't be rushing out to watch a live action version. And surely, like, with these not performing well at the box office, it's not going to be the cash grab in terms of like merch and spin-offs and all that sort of thing, because if something's tanked, like, obviously the audience isn't there. So I don't really get what the long-term plan is with all of this for Disney.
Just fold it into the streaming service as well. It's just it's added content. There are enough people out there who will quite happily sit and watch something in the house, but they won't go they won't go to the cinema to see it. And it's a cheap way to keep kids entertained, just putting on the Snow White film. And that you'll find that these things will gain an audience based on the home releases. They will find their place there because lots of people will watch it. It's because it's basically free. You're paying for the service anyway. So I hate using the dreaded word, but it's content. That's all it is. That's what it comes down to. It's
you would just assume that Disney had a big enough back catalogue that all the content exists already. That's what I mean. Like, even if I even if I had Disney Plus to show a child and they were like, "Can I watch Snow White?" I would put on the original cartoon. I would not put on whatever the fuck that was, because was there not quite a big fallout as well because they hadn't used, I don't know what the correct term is, but like small actors for the dwarfs as well. They're all computer generated and stuff like that, so therefore it was like denying maybe 7 actors the chance of like some actual work as well. There was quite a lot of backlash over.
There was a lot around that, and I think it was on the Kemmard and Mail's Take. One of the people who was involved in the film when it was getting shot in 2022, he wrote an email to them and said it was always the intention that there were going to be generated characters rather than real characters. And they said all the stuff around that with all the sort of news articles were inaccurate at best, and they were very, very unhelpful. But there was obviously there was a whole narrative around the whole film, the fact that Snow White wasn't white for a start, and there was certain things like a lot of the wee woodland animals and all that. There's less of them in it, and there's various, and they're not called the 7 dwarfs; they're called the miners in the film as well. So it was like, you're ruining my childhood, even though Snow White was made like in 1939 or something like that. So yes, it was set to fail from before anybody actually saw a trailer for it, and everything that saw just amplified it. But I've not seen the film, but I have been told that it's just not a very good film. It's not a good story and all this. And like they've obviously introduced new songs to it as well, and there's no Prince Charming in it. He's a different character in it. He's not just a prince. And I think there's all sorts of things going on. The evil queen's taken over the kingdom, and he is actually fighting to get the kingdom back and things like that. So
I mean, Gal Gadot is not a good actress, but there's even the further element of her being sort of pro IDF as well, which in itself, I mean, I just don't understand. Do you know what though? I think with like the Snow White thing, because I think I saw an interview with Rachel Ziegler and she was like, oh, we've really updated it. So she's like a modern princess. She's not just waiting for Prince Charming.
Yes.
And I get that to a certain extent, but these fairy tales and stories have survived for hundreds of years because, again, there's like a formula there that people are familiar with. It's, you know, I'm not saying that you can't have like a more up-to-date or contemporary feminist take on something, but equally, you are always going to get the backlash if you completely, like, so like that, they've completely removed an element there of the sort of Prince Charming thing. You're always going to get backlash for that because, and this is what I find really strange. So Disney obviously are trying to do sort of like blind casting in terms of like, you know, race and background and all that sort of thing. But their core audience in terms of television, film, and their theme parks are probably like your typical 2.4 kid Republicans.
Yes, oh, definitely, yes. But it wasn't seen as being too much of a problem before Trump came in. And he's pushing media companies to basically produce more traditional content out there, you know. And obviously he's had a go at Disney in the past, saying that they shouldn't have this status they have. Oh no, that was that DeSantis.
Oh, was it? Christ.
And
they all think with a single brain cell.
They all kind of merge into one Reich, you know. So it's difficult to sort of discern between them. But it was the governor of Florida was trying to Disney have got certain exemption status that they can build and they don't pay as much in taxes and all that. And he was saying, no, that's not right. You know, their content doesn't reflect what we want, so therefore they should be basically it's not good.
Oh, your content doesn't reflect what we want. Fucking hell.
Well, I mean that's happening all over, that they want to re-educate. I mean, it's happening here with all the council elections, saying we want to bring back certain morals to the youth of today, and you're saying, well, fucking sort yourselves out first.
Which is hysterical for a reform party where like a lot of their candidates have like fucking GBH charges and things like that against them. You're like, what morals were you demonstrating there?
Exactly, yeah. So it's just mental. But on the Gal Gadot Israel note, did you see the Eurovision Song Contest last night?
I am not watching it while they're allowing Israel to participate.
Well,
I don't think it's right.
This falls. I will spoil it for you then, if you don't mind.
I know who's won. Yeah.
Yes. After the jury vote, you know how they do the jury voting and the public vote. So after they did the jury vote, it was Austria was in first place and Switzerland was in second place. I think fair enough, you know, but you never can tell with the public vote. For instance, the UK got 0 in the public vote.
Oh, again, you're joking!
They got about 58 or something from the jury vote, which is fine, you know, that's okay.
I actually quite liked the song. I thought it was quite good.
It was all right, yeah, it was fine. It wasn't the worst song out there. No. But when they did the public vote, Israel was maybe down in like about 17th place or something like that. They're quite far down. And then they got about 300 points from the public vote, and it pushed them by 1 vote into the top place. And everyone after that, there was like I say, there was probably about 15 responses after that from or the various. They start from the end. They start from the country that's in the last place after the jury vote. So they had all these ones that were still to come, and none of them were reaching this total. And it came to the very last vote, and it was for Austria because they were at the top of the leaderboard. And if they got less than 100 votes, Israel was going to win the Eurovision Song Contest.
Fucking hell.
They got like about 170, so they won it. And even Graham Norton said the European Broadcasting Commission are a huge sigh of relief all round, because can you imagine if they're saying next year Eurovision Song Contest is going to be in Tel Aviv?
Do you know, last year, I didn't watch it last year either, again, the same principle, because if you're going to kick Russia out of the competition, then you have to do the same for Israel, which is really awful, because Eurovision is the highlight of my year, but anyways, I'd rather just not give them the viewing figures. But last year, there was allegations of vote rigging. So people were saying that, like, they were tweeting saying, like, oh, I've got like an Irish sim, a British sim, blah, 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 and you can vote 20 times for one country. So there was allegations of vote rigging last year, because I think Israel finished second last year as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to read in the coming days if there's more theories as to why that happened. It's funny, because obviously if you are, because I mean, as I say, I watched that Louis Theroux documentary a couple of weeks ago, and he actually came out, I think it was this week, and was like, I don't understand why anyone's surprised by what I've shown. Like, this has been going on for decades. Like, and he obviously is Jewish himself. But I do worry that with results like that, certain people on certain sides of the agenda will take that as a sort of vindication that Europe thinks that what they're doing is okay.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely, yes. Yeah, and like you say, it's very sort of patchy, the response to a lot of things like that. And they're trying to keep out of it as much as possible. But the fact that they did actually act on Russia, but not on Israel, makes so little sense. It really does. So,
and interestingly, some countries like Spain, which Chris was very proud of, were putting up, obviously it's like their equivalent of the BBC, and they were putting up like title cards during the broadcast, basically saying that we stand with the people of Palestine as well. And seemingly the European Broadcasting Corporation said they would be fined if they did it, and they did it anyway, which I think takes a lot of balls. So yeah, I worry though that things like this, and I know it's Eurovision, so it doesn't actually mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but culturally, some people might see that, as I say, as a sort of vindication of what's being done.
Yeah, they're still trying their best to maintain sort of an independence from what's going on around them, but that can only last so long.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to resolve it, because they have to do it one way or the other. They have to say, well, we just let everybody participate, so Russia comes back in, or we do actually impose sanctions on these countries, but they don't want to. It's it's all viewing figures for them and everything as well.
I know, and money, of course.
Yes,
which is the deciding factor for so many things.
Yeah, I do find it quite strange that, like, they talk about the big five in Eurovision, they pay the majority of the money towards basically the upkeep of Eurovision. I know a lot of money is generated by the actual contest itself, for the semi-finals, the final, because it's stadia, it's like massive, but it's a massive big production. So you would think at some point one of the big five is going to turn around and say, well, we're not going to do this anymore, we're going to pull out. It depends who's actually in power, I suppose, because that's the kind of thing that you would think Reform would be doing. They would say, well, why are we spending money on this? Why are we wasting public money?
On this you would think thing, so, actually.
And that's not just and it's not just happening, obviously, that sort of right-wing agenda in this country, it's happening sort of Europe-wide, so you would think with a lot of them, but I suppose if a lot of them don't actually pay money towards it, but yes, it is very strange, and it is kind of a ripe one for people to complain about and moan about. There's two sides to that. Obviously, every year you've got a contestant coming from the UK, and 9 times out of 10 they come in the bottom half of the table.
Get nothing. And Sam Ryder obviously did so well, but that was obviously the year that there was the invasion of Ukraine, so nobody else is ever going to win that, and that's fine. But at the same time, it was like that was a year that we did actually really well. And I don't know why, because we are one of the big five, and I don't why does that not buy us any good feeling with all of these other countries? Why are we constantly getting zero? Shit.
Well, that's, if you look at most of the sort of big five, they didn't do particularly well. They don't do particularly well generally. It's just, and I think part of that's to do with the fact that they're all running shit scared of having to actually run the Eurovision Song Contest. None of them want to do it because it's such a drain. One of the countries from Sweden, I think it was, they
used to do quite well.
Yeah, they've won every other year. I think they've won like 3 out of 6. And for a while, their contestants in this one were favourites to win. And the people in Malmo, I think it's like the mayor and all that, said, well, we're not hosting it again. It says it's too massive.
God, it's literally the plot of the Eurovision film on Netflix where they send the shite act.
Yep. They say they don't want to do it again, or they don't want to do it like if, they didn't want to do it next year because they said it's only 2 years in between, and it's such a drain on the economy to get it all sorted and everything. It says you just can't do it justice, and we don't want to do it, and it's down to money, a lot of it.
Yeah,
quite happy if it's somewhere else.
Yeah. Either that or it's the episode of Father Ted with My Lovely Horse.
I played that last night actually because there's a Divine Comedy version. This actual song is there, and it's right there up until the saxophone solo that pretends to be a train. Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, they're really good.
So good. That's made me want to go and either watch that episode or go and watch the Eurovision movie again. Yeah.